What's going on, everyone? My name is Under the Radar, and welcome back to another draft analysis. Now, I know that I've been really pressed for time. I had to forfeit some games, but school's over, and this league I have to compete in because I am the reigning champion of the Pokemon for Glory. So it is back for Season 2. Obviously, I got to come back to defend the title. If this was just another league that I would be joining for no reason, I couldn't find myself a good reason to do that. However, for the Pokemon for Glory and a league that I have to defend my title on, I knew for a fact I was going to be coming back to this league. However, let's talk a little bit about this video specifically. This is going to be the draft analysis. The draft happened a long ass time ago. Like, it is what? April? It is May 1st. The draft finished up probably around May 20th. No. 26th, something around there, end of April. This ended, you guys are not seeing this until end of June, so we finished the draft a long time ago, and let me just say, I got sniped to hell and back. I got another shitty draft position, as I always do. I got 8th out of 16 teams, and it seems like I always get middle of the pack, always. I've never been above 4 or 5, and like in either direction, so I'm always middle of the pack, always. So it's inevitable that I'm going to get sniped to hell and back. However, this was probably the worst I have ever been sniped. Ever. Every single round I got sniped at least 2 to 3 times. Every single time. So, this team does not make a whole lot of sense. I'm going to warn you now. It also is, slightly weird. Let's just talk about the first round pick. I wanted Tapu Koko. I wanted Tapu Koko in the PPL. And oh shit, look at that bruise on my tattoo. Holy shit. I didn't even notice that. That looks like it hurts. But I wanted Tapu Koko, right? I wanted it in PPL. I'm getting it in MPA. A-Drive took it from me. Shocker. So that was upsetting. Then I was like, you know what? I'm fine with taking Manaphy, Victini, Jirachi again. I'd love to have the captain from last season back. There was a lot of mons I wanted. They all got taken. Literally every single one of them. Kyurem Black was still available, which is a really good mon. But that's exactly what I was stuck with in PPL because I was bucketed. So I don't really think that I had a good pick for round 1. I was like, well, there's nothing else that I wanted, so I was like, well, instead of me trying to build around a mon let me just try to build around a really cool mon that I think I've never used in League format and I really want to try out, especially with some new Gen 7 mechanics that came out. So I figured I would start out with a less than ideal first round pick, and that's Excadrill. So this is not a round 1 pick in my opinion. Excadrill is a very good round 2 pick, but as I said, everything I wanted was gone. In fact, let me pull up the doc and I can tell you exactly what was gone. So Manaphy, I wanted Tapu Fini, that got taken. Jirachi, Tapu Koko, Mew, Celesteela. Those are the only things that I really wanted. They all got taken. Granted, there are still a lot of really good things that I could build around, such as Zygarde 50%, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to take it round 1. In fact, I don't think it got taken at all, so if I still wanted it, I could still take it. But Excadrill is really unique. It gives me a Rock Set around 1, it gives me a Rapid Spinner, it gives me a Fairy Killer, it gives me a Ground Stab, it gives me an Electric Immunity. So while it's not a very good round 1 pick, I think it's very crucial to have everything that Excadrill offers on a team. It also has really good base speed at base 88. It forces a lot of things like base 90s to not be able to run Jolly or Adamant, Adamant or Modest. It forces a lot of really cool prep, and it has 2 really good abilities that do not force me into bringing a sand team every single week if I choose to draft sand. For example, Choice Scarf Mold Breaker means that Rotoms are not useful at all. Things with Sturdy, like, well, this is a really bad example, but things like Fortress, if I'm able to OHKO it, it's Sturdy, doesn't really matter. So, it's pretty unique. Another thing that makes this Mon really unique is the fact that with the Z-move rule, I'm now able to give 3 Mons Z-moves. It's the exact same as the PPL rule. Shout out to me for suggesting it. But we can have 2 Mons do offensive-only Z-moves and 1 Mon use any Z-move, including support Z-moves. So now I have a really good candidate for my offensive Z-moves, depending on what else I draft, because we don't have to declare it until the end of the draft. And I think Excadrill has a really good ability for Z-moves because it has access to things like Poison Jab, it has access to things like Aerial Ace, X Scissors, Shadow Claw, so we can have a good amount of offensive Z-moves depending on the wall core that my opponent has and what I can use to break through their team. But once I drafted Excadrill, I had this plan of going pure offense. Like, I wanted to draft Thundy-T, I wanted to draft Mega Sceptile, I wanted to draft Gengar at one point in time. I wanted to draft Mismagius once I found out that someone else wanted Gengar and he's a buddy of mine, so I was like, well, fine, I'll just fuck myself. So I wanted to go pure offense, and at this point in time that draft was still very viable. So the next Mon that I drafted was in fact Thunderous Therian. Thunderous Therian is one of the most, if not the most offensive electric type in the game. Having base 101 speed is really cool because it outspeeds things like Manaphy, it outspeeds base 100s in general, it forces base 105s in things like Garchomp to run Jolly Max speed, which is really important because that means they can't be fat, and it's a lot easier for my team to take them down. Again, another great candidate for Z-moves. Some fun little calcs, +2 Gigavolt Havoc, I think it OHKOs Kyurem Black. Like, this thing's Gigavolt Havoc is just stupid strong. This thing has access to Volt Switch and U-Turn, which I like all of my electric types to have. Paul has this in PPL, and he was listing off a bunch of crazy calcs that this thing can do. So it's a very, very good offensive Mon. Having base 79, 70, and 80 defenses is actually really good as well. Being weak to rocks is a little bit less than ideal. However, I already do have a Rapid Spinner, which is really, really cool. And plus, if you've watched me for any amount of time, you know that I don't really give a shit about hazards. Like, I don't really give a shit about hazards on my side of the field because I'm always, like, hazard stacking my opponent. So as long as I win the hazard war, I'm happy. But having access to U-Turn and Volt Switch is really good. This thing is really good at being physical or special depending on the week, with access to things like Bulk Up, Nasty Plot, and Agility to set up a number of different ways. Having Volt Absorb, but this is my second electric immunity, which is absolutely amazing. Makes me very, very happy. And one thing that really makes me like Thundy-T more than anything is the fact that this thing is a really good fairy killer. Having Sludge Wave and Flash Cannon mean that I'm not always forced to have Excadrill be my fairy killer, and it forces other teams to not want to bring fairies against me. That's important in itself because fairies are so stupid useful in League format. So having 2 Mons that kind of sort of scare them away or scare them away in general is really cool. I think that Thundy-T and Excadrill together form a very nice offensive core because bulky water types are what stop Excadrill for the most part, aside from like bulky grass types. And Thundy-T absolutely decimates bulky water types and makes them not even want to be brought. So the fact that these two are working together as an offensive core is really, really nice. So after I took Thundy-T, it went 16 picks. Every other offensive Mon that I wanted was drafted. Every single one of them. Just to give you guys a little insight. Dougie was gone, Mega Absol was gone, Mega Beedrill was gone. That was when I had either Mega Beedrill or Mega Sceptile. I wanted a Alolan Muck as a pivot. Lotties were both gone. Mimikyu was gone. Necrozma was gone. I wanted that to be a bulky pivot of mine. Going down the other way, things like Buzzwole, Tapu Bulu, Lando T, Kartana. A lot of stuff that I was looking at for my offensive draft were gone. So that draft got thrown out the window. So then I was like, well, a lot of people at this point in time are also drafting fat things like Celesteela, Sylveon, Gudra was something that already existed. Manaphy, Clef, Nidoqueen already existed. Tapu Fini, Necrozma, Alolan Muck already existed. Jirachi, Mimikyu, Milotic already existed. Like, there's just some stupid fat things, and I hate every single one of you that drafted this fat shit that I have to try to face. But at this point in time, I said, well, if you can't beat them, join them. So I started to draft fat things. Starting with Florges. Florges is, in my opinion, one of the best fairy types in League format. Being able to pass decent sized wishes, being able to be physically or especially defensive while still taking hits decently well on either side. Having base 112 special attack so it can still nuke things. And with the ability to be a complete cleric for a team that has things like Excadrill, which could potentially be a sand user to keep that healthy. Things that would be able to keep Thundy T healthy is really nice. Having a base 75 speed tier is really nice because that means that slower teams, this could outspeed them, and I could run like a Calm Mind variant and destroy them that way. So I have a lot of setup. I have a Calm Mind this, I have Nasty Plot Agility, Bulk Up Thundy, I have SD Excadrill. So I won last season pretty much off of setup spam, and it looks like I'm getting into a place where I can do that again. But having Wish support is really unique. Florges is a great bulky pivot. I absolutely love Florges. A buddy of mine, Jim, he thinks he's the one that used it great originally. No, my friend, that was me. I used it in a Showdown League, and it went, I think, like 17-4. Like, it's just so fat and it's so strong. Wish, Protect, Moonblast is pretty much all you need most of the time. And having a Wish user that normally runs Protect anyway is great for scouting Z moves. I've said it before that scouting Z moves is almost impossible to do, but with Wish Protect mons, it's very easy to do. Not only does this mon help keep my team healthy, it also starts a Dragon Fairy Steel Core, which is really nice. I think that a Dragon Fairy Steel Core is pretty important in a draft. So is a Fire Water Grass Core. Spoiler alert, I don't think I finished either one of them. Nope. I don't finish either one of them. Cool. That's just a little spoiler alert. So that's how you can tell that this team is unique. All of the dragons I wanted got sniped. All of the fire types I wanted also got sniped. So having to rock without it. But once I picked Florges, as I said, all the fire types that I wanted at this point in time are pretty much gone. Infernape, Entei. A lot of shit. Maybe not Entei. Pretty much everything that I wanted was gone. So I was like, well, how else can I support things like Excadrill being able to sweep? And I think that a really important one is being able to force bulky waters to run things other than Mono Scald. So things like Suicune having to run Roar, Toxic, Ice Beam, something to hit a water immunity is crucial. Forcing things like Manaphy to not be able to run Calm Mind, Rest, Rain Dance, Scald, super important. And at this point in time, I do not have a phaser, so I wanted a bulky water type that could also phase. If you couldn't tell by that description, I picked Vaporeon, super duper fat mon with base 130 HP. It's very good at being Spadef or Fizdef. With base 110 special attack, it's also pretty good offensive. It has decent coverage in Scald, Ice Beam. That's about it. Maybe it also gets Shadow Ball. But because it does have Water Absorb, it's super important that now teams cannot run Mono Scald against me and hit my entire team for good damage. And burn things. This also gives me a second Wish user. This gives me a slow Baton Pass user. This also gives me another Cleric. So things like Aromatherapy will not have to always be ran on just Florges. There's a lot of stuff that Vaporeon adds to this team that I really enjoy. I also really like the fact that now I have a base 65, a 75, an 88, and a 101. So even if people look at these mons and like, oh, hey, they're all walls, they're all bulk. Not really. So they have to run speed in order to outspeed them, and that's what I like. And if someone is going to assume that they're all walls and they don't speed creep it and I bring it offensive, I'm going to point and laugh at them because that's what I do. But yeah, two really good Wish mons, two good Clerics, two really good offensive mons, really good ways of forcing teams to not specifically run just fat against me is really nice. And at this point in time, again, people are still drafting really fat teams. For example, the fattest team in the entire draft up to this point, up to my 5th pick, was Tapu Fini, Necrozma, Alolan Muck, and Arcanine. That is stupid fat. So I was like, well, he's going Trick Room. There was also that Celesteela, Sylveon, Gudra Core. There's a Mega Blastoise, a Mega Blastoise team that's kind of fat, but not super duper fat. The Jirachi Milotic Fortress team is pretty fat. But at this point in time, the Mega that I also wanted has now officially been taken. And it killed me that Mega Sceptile went round 3 when I planned on taking it round like 7. I didn't think anybody would take it that early, but whatever. Sycamore, I hate you for it. It's no big deal though. So at this point in time, I was looking at defensive cores that were absolutely disgusting, that would make my opponents hate prepping for my team. And back in the LBA, a very good friend of mine named Shadow Chew, he effectively used a core of 2 mons that caused so much trouble in prep and caused so many people to fear his team. I wanted it. And the first mon in that 2 Pokemon core is Snorlax. Now, you might be looking at Snorlax and saying, how is that threatening? Snorlax is threatening because if you look at the team that I have a very fat team so far. Excadrill is pretty fat because it has like base 110 110 HP. If you look at Florida's Vaporeon, Snorlax, very, very fat team. However, Snorlax also has a base 110 attack, so it's a very good choice band user. Very good assault vest user with base 110 Spadef. Also, it's super threatening with Curse. And with having access to a couple different clerics, a couple different wish users, I can send this thing in, soak up a wish, get back a good amount of HP, and then I'm good to start doing it again. This also gives me a switch into fire and ice types, which as of right now I have Vaporeon, but this gives me a secondary switch into them, which is really cool, really great, cool, really awesome. It's a nice thing. And this thing has a really good coverage with Ice Punch, Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, Body Slam, Crunch. This gives me a Pursuit user, so things like Victini can't just spam V-Create against my entire team. I can send this thing in, click Pursuit, and kill it. Same thing with other Psychic types like Mew and Jirachi. So overall, Snorlax is extremely threatening to prepare for. Now, once I took Snorlax, I knew I wanted the rest of my team to go. From this point on, I did not get sniped so bad to where it threw off my entire team. I got sniped to the point to where it hurt how I wanted my team to look, but it didn't hurt it to where it made it any less threatening. Snorlax having the ability to curse up is always a problem. Like, if you sleep on Curselax, you will get 6-0'd by it. A buddy of mine, Geopolitics, he now quit Mons, but he has swept so many people in League format with Curselax just because they didn't prep for it enough, and that's really nice. And if you look at my team, a lot of people say, well, you just bring Taunt and you're good. No. If you taunt my team, you might just be getting a choice banded Snorlax body slamming you. You might just get a Specs Vaporeon scalding you. Same thing with Florges. You might get a good switch into Thundy T or Excadrill, and you might lose to that. Curselax is a little bit worse now with the terrains because I believe you cannot rest up in Misty or electric terrain. However, in grassy terrain, I believe you can. So 2 games, I can't effectively use Curselax at any point in time. However, I can use it depending on what my opponent brings. So that doesn't make this thing any less threatening. It makes it more crucial for them to prepare for it. It makes it easier for me to prep for their prep. So Snorlax is an amazing bring. I absolutely love Snorlax. I love the fact that I've always wanted to use these mons. Like, I've used Vaporeon before, I've used Florges before. I've never used Excadrill, Thundy T, or Snorlax, and I've also never used the rest of the mons that I drafted. JK, I've used one of them. So I'm really excited for Snorlax. I'm really excited to use Curselax. I love Curselax. However, that core of 2 mons that I wanted to mention, I mentioned the first one was Snorlax. The second one is probably my favorite ghost type in League format, and that is Cofagrigus. Let me tell you a little bit about my boy Cofagrigus. So Cofagrigus has a stupid high defense stat of base 145. That pairs super well with Snorlax because it has a very good Spadef stat. So these things can soak up each other's weaknesses and immunities. For example, this is weak to Ghost. Snorlax is immune to Ghost. Snorlax is weak to Fighting. This is immune to Fighting. This also has the ability to take away things abilities, so things like adaptability on like Mega Beedrill or something like that won't be able to hit Snorlax as hard. This also has access to Toxic Spikes and is a really good spin blocker. With base 58 HP, it's going to be soaking up so much HP from Vaporeon and Florges' Wishes. And this also gives me another setup user. Kurtzlax plus Calm Mind Cofagrigus is a lot for a team to prep for. You might not think it is, however it is. It's super hard for a team to prep for both of them on the same team, along with things like Thundy T and Excadrill. So I really like that. This also gives me a Trick Room aspect to my team, to where if people now cannot run Trick Room against me because I have a Cofagrigus, which can be offensive with base 95 special attack, and a Snorlax with base 110 physical attack. So I don't think it's very smart for teams to look at these two and think that they're not great together. I think this is the perfect two-mon core, honestly. But as I said, this thing does have access to Toxic Spikes, and I think Toxic Spikes are one of, if not the most important hazard in League format. I still only have one Stealth Rocker, however, that does get fixed a little bit later on, so that's fine by me. But right now, my team is looking very fat and a little bit offensive. I kind of wanted to give my team a little bit more utility to go with my bulk and my offenses, and there is a mon in the NPA which has come to a lot of games. It has come to a whole lot of games, and it has been a team player. It's done a lot of work. It hasn't gotten any kills, it hasn't done any, but it's been a team player, and it's been an annoyance for my team, and I wanted to draft it here as well. And that Pokemon, my friends, is Alolan Persian. This thing has been a savior for me in the NPA, having the ability to Parting Shot, having the ability to U-turn, taunt, really fast taunt at base 115 speed, and having Technician Bite to get those crucial flinches, being able to get up Toxics. But the big thing is the fact that now I have some really good candidates for Z moves. I have Snorlax, which can be a really good offensive Z move user. I have Alolan Persian, which can be a really good support Z move user because it has access to Parting Shot. I have really good support mons in Florges and Vaporeon. I have really good support mons in Cofagrigus because it has access to Memento, so I can use Z Memento on that if I wanted to. Two really good offensive Z move users, again in Excadrill and Thundy T. I have a lot of really good Z-move potential for me to pick from, and I think Alolan Persian just adds to that with Z Parting Shot. But also having the ability to be pretty fat with Fur Coat is really nice, and being able to Parting Shot into one of my fatter mons to make it easier for them to set up. Like if I can Parting Shot a fighting type and go into Cofagrigus and start setting up Calm Minds, that would be awesome. If I could set up a Parting Shot and go into a special attack or a physical attacker like a Weavile or something like that, and start cursing up with Snorlax, like that would be awesome. So there's a lot of really good utility that Alolan Persian offers this team. I do think it was the best tier 5 for me to pick up. I picked it up extremely early. However, at this point in time, the Mega I wanted was safe. So that's awesome. It was only me. Bill? No, my Mega was not safe at this point. Next round, my Mega is safe, so I just have to hope that nobody picks it. However, I am the only one that is okay with taking 2 tier 5s and a tier 3 to get a tier 1 Mega. I am the only one that is okay with it. Everyone else is not. The only one who can take a tier 1 Mega is Bill. And I knew what he was taking from the start, so I wasn't too worried about it. So what this does effectively is it gives me a really good type round out. I have that, I'm trying to remember the core in mind. I have a core in mind with Cofagrigus and Alolan Persian, which is really cool. I think it's... I can't remember what the core is. I'll have to think of it later on. It's going to bug me, though. But overall, these mons in general are so cool together. This has a lot of really good utility, a lot of really good offense, and I wanted to continue having really good offense with adding an aspect to my team that just makes it so hard to prep for, and that, my friends, is a weather aspect. So I had to draft Sand. I had to draft my boy Gigalith. So Gigalith got a massive buff this gen in having the ability Sandstream. It also has access to Sturdy, I believe, but this thing with base 25 speed and base 135 attack is another really good Trick Room option for my team. So being able to spam things like Stone Edge, Earthquake, Heavy Slam is amazing. This gives me another good stealth rocker, so if I wanted to bring Sand, I don't have to bring rocks on my Excadrill. With this thing having the buff with Sand, it makes it Spadef times 1.5, so it's pretty good on the Fizdef and Spadef side, as well as having some good utility with Toxic and Rocks and things of that nature. But pretty much now, whenever you look at my team, I don't have a Fire Water Grass core. I don't have a Dragon Fairy Steel core, and that's a little bit less than ideal. However, what I do have is I have 4 really fat mons that can be an annoyance to your team. I have a Weather option, which is really hard to prep for. I have a Thundy T, which in general is really hard to prep for. I have an Annoyance mon in Alolan Persian, which can just totally disrupt your entire team to the point to where it's going to be really easy for me to send in one of my fat mons to set up with, or my Weather to come in and set up. So this also gives me another good candidate to receive things like Z Parting Shot. So if like late game, say I have my Gigalith out there, and it's gotten to the point to where it's going to die on Rocks Reentry, but I need Sand. I can Parting Shot into this thing, and it's pretty much like a Healing Wish, and I have my Sand back up, and I have it back up at full health. So it's really crucial now that I have options to receive the support Z moves. So I really like Gigalith on this team, and I think it adds an aspect to my team that not a lot of people are going to be super happy to face. I know I wouldn't want to face this team. It's just really fat to prep for. So after I got Gigalith, I wanted a mon that would be, I don't want to say an annoyance, but add another aspect to my team that hasn't yet ever been drafted by me. And I realized that there was a tier 5 mon that fit almost perfectly on my team. That, my friends, is Leavanny. Now, I know you're looking at it and you're like, how on earth does this fit on your team? Well, base 92 speed is really important. That's another speed tier I do not have. This forces base 95s like Darmanitan to not be able to run Adamant or Jolly with less speed. This also gives me a Sticky Web setter with Overcoat, meaning I can always have a Focus Sash. Unless my opponent has up Rocks, which more than likely against my team they will. But I will not be taking Sand damage with Leavanny, which is huge. This also gives me another setup sweeper with SD, Agility, and Baton Pass. So if I get up Sticky Webs and then I want to like SD Baton Pass into Excadrill, I can do that. Now I will have a +2 Excadrill if they don't have a ground immunity. And if I'm like Scarfed, it'll be like a +2 Excadrill in this hand already. It's very difficult for my opponent to prep for Sticky Webs, Hazard Stack, Weather, Fat Setup, Annoying Cleric, Thundy T. It's very hard for them to set up, for them to prep for this right now. This also does give me another Baton Pass user. Right now, I don't have a whole lot of Volt Turn. I have Thundy T, I have Vaporeon, I have Alolan Persian, and now I have Leavanny. So 4 is a good amount in my opinion. I'd like to get 2 more, but I can't. I can only get 1 more with the Mega that I wanted. But I really like Leavanny. Having base 103 physical attack is also really good. Like, having a bug grass type is also really nice. So, I really like Leavanny. Base 70 special attack isn't anything to sleep on either. I really like Leavanny. And it gives me some nice memeage options as well. Oh, this also gives me a knockoff user, which now I believe I have 3 of them. Thundy T, Kofag, and Leavanny. I think I have 3 knockoff users right now. I'm going to have 4 eventually. So that's also really nice to have. Now, this next mon that I picked up, I wanted a fighting type, right? I wanted something to nuke things like Licky, because as you can see from right now, really fat normal types like Blissey and Chansey are really annoying for my team. I also wanted another U-turner because I think that pivoting is really important, and I wanted a mon that would force switches while also being able to U-turn. And it has to be in tier 5 too, so I'm restricted to a lot of what I can pick. Now, I could have picked something like Girder or Sulk. I didn't want either one of those, so what I ended up going with was Primeape. This adds another offensive Z-move user option to my team. With base 105 attack and 95 speed, with the access to Defiant, this means that people can no longer freely defog against my team. So, I have a really good spin blocker, I have a Defiant user to block defog, and I have a really speedy base 95, base 105 attack mon. This has access to really cool moves like Gunk Shot, Poison Jab, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Close Combat, Earthquake, Stone Edge. It has a really good move pool, so it's really good for Z moves. It also has access to U-Turn, and it has some pretty good meming options as well, and that's always something that I like to have. So right now I have 3 tier 5 mons that are all very crucial to my team that all do something different that I really like. Granted, I don't have a single core completed, which kind of sort of sucks. Yes, I do agree. However, I don't think my team needs a fire type to break down bulky grass types at this point in time, because I can always set up Toxic Spikes, Toxic Stall them, set up with them on Snorlax. Having Primeape with the ability to do things like Fire Punch them. I have access to, like, with Z Fire Punch, I can hurt them that way. With Thunderous, if they want to bring in a mon that way, I can, like, Z Incinerate them. So I have abilities to nuke bulky grass types. I have Z Aerial Ace on Excadrill. Like, I have a lot of really good potential Z move options. I also have a lot of really good potential just coverage options with Toxic stalling them down to where my offense can still take over. So I'm not super worried about bulky grass types, so I don't think a fire type is super necessary. Dragon typing is just really good because there's only a little bit that resists and is immune to it in fairy type and steel type. However, I have access to Excadrill, which nukes fairy types, so I'm not super worried about that. And I have really good coverage mons. So at this point in time, not a huge worry. I also have really good speed tiers. I have 101, which is pretty slow, like, for your fastest mon as of right now, but I'm fine with base 101, especially once you see what my last pick is. You'll see why I'm okay with it. I have 101, 95, oh no, I have 115, 101, 95, 92, 88, 75, 65, and then it drops down to, like, Snorlax, Kofag, and Gigalith. So 65 to, like, 115 I have pretty good coverage on, so I'm really happy with speed tiers, so I don't have to worry about that with my mega pick. The only thing I have to worry about with my mega pick is I want a special nuke. I have a really good physical offense. I have Excadrill. Thundy T is really good specially and physically. I have Snorlax, I have Alolan Persian, I have Leavanny, and I have Primeape. I want a special nuke. I want something that is so hard for people to prep for because of how fast and how offensive it is, that it's just going to be so hard for them to take on. And as you can see, I do not yet have a Psychic type, so it is very obvious what my Mega is, and I picked Mega Alakazam. Base 175 special attack. Let me just have you take that in for a second. Base 175 special attack. This tier 1 Mega is why I had to take Primeape, Leavanny, and Alolan Persian. Granted, I would have rather had Mega Garchomp. That is a mon that I wanted instead for my Mega slot. I would have also rather had Mega Sceptile, because then I would have my Dragon type. I can switch out Leavanny for a Fire type. However, it is what it is. You can't always get what you want. I'm still really happy with this. This traceability means that I can switch in on fatter teams, like, if a mon has Regenerator, I can switch on something fatter, get Regenerator, switch out. With base 105 Spadef, I'm able, and base 55 HP, I can still drink up Fat Wishes. I can Calm Mind up and I can recover on fatter teams. And if a team is more offensive, they have to bring a Scarfer that is base 90 or higher, I believe. I believe that's what it is. Hold up. Let me double check my math. I haven't had to face a Megazam in so long. I think it's base 82 or higher, because Nidoking at base 85 just outspeeds Timid Max Speed Alakazam. So that forces my opponent's prep so much more than what they already thought. Access to Sucker Punch means I can actually work around that with Substitute. This has really good utility options in, I believe it has Taunt and Encore. Hold up. It does have Taunt and Encore, just like I thought. So again, I have another way of taking advantage of fatter teams. This has Reliable Recovery and Recover, and base 175. I will let you soak that in for a second. Base 175. Deoxys attack has base 180. This thing is almost as strong as Deoxys attack, with amazing move coverage, Focus Blast, Shadow Ball, Energy Ball, Psychic, Psy Shock. It has access to Signal Beam. It has access to Charge Beam to set up even more. This thing is insane, and with the ability to not take hazards damage on the first time it comes in, that is also amazing. So overall, my team has a lot to prep for. It has Sand, it has a Thundy T, it has really fat Clerics, it has really good setup spam, it has an Annoyance and a Alolan Persian, it has a Sticky Webs aspect, it also has a decent Wall Breaker in Persian, and they also now have to prep for a super speedy Alakazam. So while teams might want to think that they can bring a Dark type to help wall that, I have a Primeape, I have a Excadrill, I have a lot of things that can help scare away prep in this aspect, so I love that. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Z-movers. Hold up, let me actually pull up the picture because I forgot to. Okay, so my Z-move users, I have a very good choice. I have Excadrill, Thundy T, Snorlax, and Primeape for offensive. For support, I have Alolan Persian and Kofag. I could probably argue to give it to Vaporeon or Snorlax. Like, I have really good options for Z-moves. However, in the end, I think I made a poor choice in my offensive Z-moves, which is a little bit less than ideal. Actually, let me just go ahead and show you who I picked. So as you can see, I picked Excadrill and Thundy T as my offensive Z-move users, and I picked Alolan Persian as my super Z-move. I call it a Super Saiyan Z-move. Alolan Persian can use any Z-move that it wants, so it has access to things like Z-Taunt, which I think boosts its attack by one stage. I can't remember. But the big one is Z-Parting Shot. And then I have my offensive Z-move users, which is obviously only offensive moves. Now, I think I made a little bit of a mistake by picking Excadrill. I probably should have picked Primeape. However, my reasoning for picking Excadrill, I'm going to be able to run Adamant a lot of the time. I'm also going to be able to outspeed a lot of things. So if I'm able to outspeed something and take out the one check to Excadrill with like a Z Flying move or a Z Ghost move or something of that nature, then I can still argue seeing a Z move being really useful on it. Thundy T for a Z move user is obvious why I wanted it. It makes a lot of sense. There's no reason to argue it. The only one that I think I'm regretting is Excadrill, which I think it should be Primeape, but either way, I'm still happy with it. I still think I made a great team out of how much I got sniped. It's absolutely disgusting how much I got sniped. The only thing on this draft that I wanted originally was Snorlax. I think that's it. Which is a little upsetting. However, I do still think that I made a good team. I really like my team. I've already built week 1. I've also already built most of week 2. So I'm really enjoying building with this team. It has a lot of really cool aspects, but I hope you guys are excited for P4G. I'm going to take a double championship in this league. I am not about to fall short and let someone else take my title from me. This is my season. This is my league. I'm winning it. But make sure you guys stick around and you are excited and you get ready for the P4G Season 2. I also have a link down in the description below where you guys can buy Maryland Torterra Pins apparel if you would like it. Phone cases, laptop cases, t-shirts, hoodies, baby onesies, cups, anything you guys want to. I will leave a link to that down below for you guys to pick up your Maryland Torterra Pins stuff. There's also my channel logo. If you guys wanted to pick up a shirt of that, you are more than welcome to. You do not have to by any stretch of the imagination, but if you would like to, that is also down there. But with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you all again so much for watching, and I hope you are ready for P4G Season 2. Bye-bye.